All right, so lesson 4, okay, which here 5 and 6 creation. Brody?
Heaven and earth and light.
Heaven and earth, light. Second day, God created
Firmament.
firmament. Third day, what did God create? What did he create? We've got to review or think a little bit. Logan? What do those grass need to be on? What did he do on day 3? The trees and the grass? What did he call forth? Brody? Amber? Land. God called forth land, separated the seas and rivers and stuff from him, and then he the earth by trees and plants. And on day 4, what did God create? The moon and stars, the light holders. Okay? So we're going to take 5 and day 6 today. So you want to make sure your Bibles are open there to Genesis chapter 1 again. Okay? Genesis chapter 1. And verse says they're the evening and morning day. So verse 20 begins the 5th day, the work of God on the 5th day. We're all set there. All right, verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the water, multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Let's just take that right now before we go on to the next couple of verses there. So what was created on the 5th day? What did God create? Amber? That see? Birds that can fly. Okay. Now there's maybe we categorize, and again this is one of those questions. What about ostrich or penguin? They can't fly. Did God create those on this day? Or they land? They have wings. We categorize them as birds. We're not going to get into that argument. Okay. Right now we're worried about that. But God created birds that can fly. Some of them, where did they come forth out of? If we look at the Bible, the moving creature that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament. What do you think those are? Jaden? Give me like an actual type of bird. Type of bird.
Oh, any bird?
Sure. Falcon. Okay. So it seems like that one, they bring forth, let the waters bring forth. Okay, and they may fly. So we maybe even categorize the animals. Well, we know there are animals of the sea, but are birds like, what are some birds that can go in the water, but yet can fly? Micah? Ducks, puffins, seagulls. Okay, so animals that can float on the water. God has given them special feet to be able to paddle in the water. Okay, so they can live in the water, but also obviously they can walk on land. They can fly. Okay, a lot of them nest on land. So we see that there, opposed to a robin or a falcon or an eagle, which you can say, well, it can swoop down and maybe grab some fish out of the water, but it doesn't float on the water. It doesn't have webbed feet to be able to paddle on the water. Okay? And it mainly lives in the trees or on the land. Okay? It doesn't need water other than maybe for its food. Okay? So we see that there in day 5, and then also obviously all the fish. Now again, the animals that we see before and after the flood, were they maybe different? Were they exactly alike? Is the types of and the wealth of the types of birds and fish that we see now, were there that many at that time? Don't know. Probably not, because that ark would have been very full. But obviously God could have given to the hawks. Maybe there was a certain type of hawk, and after left the ark. Okay? Now we have multiple types of hawks, multiple types of eagles, multiple types of finches, all of those different things. All right, so that's day 5. You guys have got that there. What was created, what was done. Okay? Now, what's interesting is, obviously, scientists who believe in evolution, they say all these animals, we even saw in that little video about the dolphin, right? Earlier, it started like this. It started a single cell. Trying to say creatures actually started in the water and came out onto as a single cell, and they moved their way, and it took years, and we know that's not true. God created these animals ready to go. They had age, okay? They had size. It wasn't like all of them on this first day were born babies, okay? They all hatched out of some eggs that God put there. That's not what we see here, but God created them with age, just like they were trees that were ready to go, had fruit on them, okay, which would be food for the animals. That takes time, but God created them with age already. But as we study all of these things, we see the beauty. That's what I said before. I hopefully curious. We look under, maybe at the wings of a bird, okay, or we want to understand more about the fish, and so we think now, is this fish got scales or doesn't have scales? Okay, a shark has live birth. It doesn't lay eggs like other fish do, so is it a mammal? But it doesn't breathe oxygen, and it's not warm-blooded. So we have all these questions, whereas a dolphin, it breathes air, and it gives live birth. So is that, well, yeah, we say it's a mammal. Okay? But it doesn't have a ton of hair, but it has a little bit of hair. Those are all the things that we should wonder about, the animals. And that's why probably most of you maybe enjoy sitting down. And, maybe it's a rainy day in the summer, so instead you put in the DVD that's, about the animal kingdom. And you can sit there and for 45 minutes or so, you can go, wow, that's really, really neat. Thankfully these people have studied these animals for us and done a lot of research so that I can learn and grow. And they might not give the praise and glory and thanks to God for that, but I will give God the glory and thanks for that. Wow, that's a marvelous animal. Be and believe that God created all those little details, like the colors and, well, that's a different kind of animal. Sorry, we should stick to birds and fish today, right? Anyways, so we see fish. That we hardly know anything about, and then we stand in awe and go, wow, that's amazing. That's how they work. Or gills. How do gills work? They can filter that oxygen out of the water as the fish swims through them to keep them alive. That's an amazing thing. And I asked that question on here. So what do we need to understand all that beauty and creation and detail? What do we need? Kenton? Yeah, we need faith. Okay. So there's no way God could have sat down and created all these different animals with all of these unique and odd characteristics. I love watching a National Geographic or Animal Planet and seeing the birds. There are some weird things some birds can do there. Okay, they can puff out. Some of them, get their eyes get way stretched out, and they can do weird things with their feathers. You go, now, how did God think of that? How did he think of that? To go, well, that would be a good way for that bird. And that's probably what a lot of ungodly science said. There's no way God could have thought up all these different things, right? That would be like me saying, Kimberly, I want you to go home tonight, and I want you to draw me 3,000 different varieties of birds, and I want them to be unique and different colors. You got to get that all done today. How's that going to go? I'd run out of ideas after like the 100th bird, right? To think, I wouldn't think, oh, let's do this or do that. We would just run out of ideas. But yeah, and that's what the science says. There's no way God, there could be a person or a God or whatever who could dream up all of these animals and bam, they're all there in one day. But they were. And that shows the majesty and beauty of God. Like Kenton said, we have to have faith. We have to believe that God did that. Okay? Good. So, he also commanded them to obviously bring forth after their kind, so to have babies, to fill the earth, be abundant, be fruitful and multiply, and God bless them. Okay? And again, one kind of a salmon can't give birth, okay, to a bass. And an eagle can't lay an egg, that's a robin. Okay? Again, scientists who say, well, things evolved and they changed. One species can't change into another. That is not possible. that violates the laws of nature that God has created. Okay? So that's day 5. Now let's go on to day 6. So you got to look at verse 24. Okay? And God said, "Let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And God of the earth after their kind, and every earth after his kind. God saw that good." So what did God create on the 6th day here at the beginning? We're not going to finish the 6th day here, but at the beginning, Brody?
God created animals and man.
Okay, which one would you categorize? Well, animals of land, yes. And he divides them into 3 different categories. What are the categories? What's one category? Sydney, category. They're on your paper there. What's one of the categories? Yes, beasts of the earth. And what types of animals did you list there as some beasts of the earth? Micah? Bison? Dinosaurs? Bears? Gorilla? Lion? Okay. I'm going to go back. I don't know. I'm going to disagree with Micah with bison. Because there's a reason why. What will we categorize as creeping things? Some types of animals that are creeping things.
Snakes.
Bugs. Insects, lizards, okay, all those types of things. What about cattle? What would cattle include? Don't tell Logan's got any cows by his house. Okay. What do all those animals have in common? 4-hooved beasts. That's why, Mike, I would say I'd put the buffalo in that one. Beast, I think we think of more of the animals with sharp teeth and claws, dogs, cats. Okay? Animals that have claws and teeth, and some of them may eat meat, some of them eat plants, bears. Okay? Whereas more the cattle, we think of probably a lot of the animals that eat plants, that don't necessarily eat other ones. And then obviously the creeping things could include all kinds of them. But anyways, we see those are there. Good. So those are some possible animals for each category. Okay. Now, here's something else. I asked that question. Besides the command to multiply, which God gives to these animals as well, what rule did God set in verse 21? This is a little bit tougher. I saw a lot of variety here. There's really one thing I was looking for, and I realized looking back at that question, I probably didn't make it as obvious as I should, but we did just touch on it. Colin? That's the key phrase what Colin said there at the end. With their kind. Again, we talk about that with evolution or evolutionism and the falseness of it. A cow is not going to bring forth a horse. Okay? A lion is not going to give birth to a snake. Okay? Or even a cheetah. Okay? Or even a leopard. It has to be after their own kind. Okay? And so that's important. That's a command God gives them. Bring forth after your kind. So the scientist, now again, he's not going to agree, a lot of the ungodly scientists isn't going to agree with any of this. So when I'm arguing with him, I might be trying to have a debate, but I realize it's pretty futile because he's not going to believe me. I can say, God says it's after his kind. He says, well, I don't believe in God. Well, now we've got nothing to argue on. I'm sorry for you that you God and that you don't believe in him because God does reveal himself to you, but in your stubbornness, to admit that there is. Therefore, you know what? We might be done having this argument. I'm just wasting my time. I'm casting my pearls before swine here. I probably wouldn't tell him that. That'd make him really angry towards me. And maybe I have to have some type of working relationship with him if I was a fellow scientist when we were working together. But we have some of those things. So we see those creatures, okay? The animals here that we see on today, again, we talked about yesterday, the majesty and the marvelous, their brains, how God gave them. We'll see animals in heaven, along with plants and other things. But then animals, God did give a mind to them, and we see how they can learn and they can grow. Okay, animals can animals show love and anger? Would you say? Can an animal show love and anger? Can you give an example? What's an example of an animal angry?
Well, I don't know, animals going wild, attacking people.
Give a specific example, Micah.
Like when a lion goes into another's territory and fighting.
Yeah. I can think of maybe a gorilla getting mad, right? Beats his chest and they fight. So those are all good examples. We can come up with 1,000 of them. Okay? And can you give an example of an animal showing love? An animal showing love towards its offspring or another one of its animals. Amber?
When mothers show up to their babies.
Kind of animal. Can you give an example? Okay? Cat. Yeah, animals, they care for their offspring. They love them. Okay? And they do those things a lot of time. There's an instinct and there's a naturalness to them. But also, God gave them those senses. We saw it, again, with the dolphins. Their intelligence. Okay? And they're able to see and understand and know. That's why we're amazed at dogs. Dogs can do amazing things. Okay? We don't have anybody here that needs dogs, but there are people who can have dogs that can sense when someone's going to have a seizure, and so that dog's always with them, and they alert the owner, so the owner knows I should go sit down, because they can sense that ahead of time. Or a dog can obviously sense where people are, I smell them or know them. A dog can sense, usually a lot of times, between maybe someone who has some negative or bad activity that they want to do, so the dog is on high alert. Dogs can be used to sniff things out. Can be a good guide dog for blind people. So again, we see that they are able to care and understand and know about their masters. Now there's some training that goes on there too. Okay. Now God also did this here. He furnished us out these animals because He knows for us as well. We're going to need these animals. These animals aren't here. Okay, you might have someone, we got to all be vegetarians. We can't eat any more cows. Okay, we can't eat any more animals. No more fish. We're going to have to go vegetarian. No, God gave these animals for us, man, to use. We can eat these animals. That is okay for man to do. God has given them to us to eat. He's given us the animals. Obviously, we see that we've domesticated like cats and dogs to be pets. Okay, so God has given these animals for us to use. He's filled His house, and we now can stand back and go, wow, look at the variety God gave too. He didn't just give 2 birds. He wasn't stingy. He gave thousands, if not maybe tens of thousands of varieties of birds on this earth. What an amazing thing. Dogs, hundreds of varieties of dogs and hundreds of varieties of cats. Okay? And then obviously God again blesses them. Okay? So we see that. Again, these animals were created with age. Okay? These weren't little baby lions and baby tigers that were created here, but God gave them with age. Specifically, God also gave some of the animals to be sacrifices. Specifically, what one animal do we often think of or speak of as a sacrifice in the Bible? Micah? Yeah, sheep, and even the young lamb. Jesus is referred to as the lamb because He had to be sacrificed. So God gave animals that way too, to be sacrificed. So what a beautiful, beautiful thing there too. Okay? Now, I asked that question, and I saw a variety of interesting things. Yesterday, we talked about the plants, and we know that before Adam and Eve fell in the garden, before they eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we're told in the Bible there is no, what? What didn't happen?
No one sinned.
No one sinned, that's true, but what else didn't happen anywhere in the garden? Logan? Death. Now, if I stopped watering my tomato plant, and I had you over a month from now, and I said, Amber, what's wrong with my tomato plant? And she said, well, you didn't water it, so it died. Ooh. So no plants died. So what if plant, is it dying? Really dying, but in a sense it is. I've plucked it out of the earth and it's no longer alive. So again, this is something where a person who believes in evolution may argue with you and say, well, see, When you ate the plants, you killed them. Therefore, you caused death in the Garden of Eden. However, I would say, I don't quite agree with you. And some of you had it. What did you think there? Why isn't eating plants causing death? Joe?
Well, sometimes if you, like, fruits that have seeds in them, it makes literally spreading seeds.
Okay. So by me eating the plants, I'm actually helping it. Whereas if I ate an animal, so that's a good point Joe brings up there.
Plants don't have blood, like us, we do.
And animals, right? I'd say that's probably, to me, one of the biggest differences in the other places of life being in the blood, the soul being in the blood. So that when I eat a plant, I don't see blood. Okay? When I eat an animal, I see blood. Okay? So to me, that's a pretty big difference too. Kenton.
Plants don't have a mind, their brain, or a soul.
Yep, we don't see that the plants have a brain like we can see in the other creatures. And again, a scientist may argue, well, there's some, worm, is not really, is there brain, or, we have all these, they try to find just like little things they often say. So I would stick it to the basics, okay? Now, if you want to, especially as we go through this here, okay, there's a website that is just full and there's a company started by a man named Ken Ham. He's out of Australia. I don't think Mr. Ham would agree doctrinally with a lot of things that maybe we agree with, divorce and remarriage and sovereignty of God maybe. Well, he'd probably agree with that, but the idea of common grace, I don't know. I've never met the man. I can't talk to him, so I can't speak to those things. Okay, does he believe in keeping the Sabbath day holy? I don't know. But he has started a very good website and a company called Answers in Genesis. Micah and Amber, you went to the museum, right? Creation Museum. Anybody else been to the Creation Museum? That's his company's museum, okay? And that's a great website so that later on in life, if you get to a point where someone wants to, they make a good argument. You're like, you know what, I don't have an answer to that about Genesis. This is a really good site to go to find a lot of those answers. Very reliable, especially when it comes to creation and somebody arguing with us when it comes to evolution. Okay? So, now I asked you there to read Isaiah 65, okay, verse 25, and how will animals be different in heaven? So the wolf and the lamb shall feed together, the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountains, the Lord. So what will be different about animals in heaven? Megan? Right. The lion, the lamb, and it's not going to destroy the lamb, it's going to be, see their plants. Okay? Good. So that will be different in heaven. So again, we see animals in heaven, but we see them living once again like they did in the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve sinned. Okay? They lived in peace and in harmony, and it was a beautiful relationship. Okay? So, animals, they have some type of souls, okay? But they aren't given minds like we are to be able to understand the gift of grace, God's faithfulness, godliness. Those things we don't see, okay, mainly in animals. But the downside of that is there's something else that I guess that really stands out to me that I've pointed out maybe before to you guys, and I guess I think of quite a bit, especially in the day and age we live in of people who do all kinds of horrible sins to each other. But that is this. For the most part, in nature, we hardly ever see an animal torture another animal. Okay? A lion, if he can kill the animal, will kill the animal. But he'll kill it, and it will be dead and done with. Okay? He doesn't torture the animal. He doesn't go running up to the gazelle and take out a fingernail and scratch the gazelle and go, I gotcha, and then come back 5 minutes later and scratch him again and scratch him again. to torture them to death, like a human might, okay? We think of all the horrible things that criminals or in war have been done to other humans to be mean to each other. We don't really see that very much in nature, okay? When an animal needs to eat, it kills and it destroys, and that's it. But because we are different from the animals, unfortunately, man then takes it a step further. We do torture. And we can say we're mean to our brothers and sisters that way, or we're mean in other ways. Animals, you may say that's mean, but it's a little bit different. But we are different in that way as well. But let's remember that. What? 8? Colin? Water. But specifically, what kinds on day 5? Jaden?
The birds of the air and the animals of the sea.
All right, birds of the air and animals that are in the sea. We think of fish, but again, you might include seals and other otters. Okay, and then what about day 6? What did God create in day 6, Amber? Okay, God created creeping things, beasts of the earth, cattle. I said, man, we'll get to that tomorrow. We'll specifically look at that in day 6, the creation of man, and we'll also day last.